Hello and welcome to Dreams of Wings, and welcome to the Iris Simulations Grob G115E or Tutor T.1 as it's also known. This isn't a warbird in the kind of sense that you normally see on this channel, but I kind of interested in this aircraft. I've never had any Iris aircraft in P3D, although I've heard great things about them, and I thought it would be quite interesting to try out this aircraft, which is a good modern trainer, and see how she was in the sim. And as you can see, she certainly looks absolutely beautiful. You can tell Iris have put a lot of work into this. There's a good manual that comes with it, lots of documentation. And what I normally do with this kind of thing is it's not a scripted review. This is literally the first time I have actually flown it. This is more a case of a review from that kind of first perspective point of view, having had a look at the manual, having understood a bit about how it works, and just seeing how she flies and really learning the hard way. It's always quite interesting to pick up quite often my own faults by flying something in this kind of way. So let's get cracking. So here we are in the cockpit, and as you can see, Iris have done a very nice job of it. I do love a steam gauge cockpit. The design of the Grob cockpit here is very easily laid out, perfect for training. Everything is pretty obvious. What I have done is had a quick look at the manual beforehand. I was going to say usually, quite often when I get a new aircraft, I will just kind of jump into it and feel it out, which I tend to find is a good way of finding out where the obvious kind of blind spots are in terms of how things work and that kind of stuff. But seeing as I'm doing a review, I thought it was only right to actually have a flick through the manual beforehand and get an idea of what this aircraft is all about. And it's an interesting one. I can't wait to fly it. Literally, this is the first time I've jumped into the cockpit in the sim. So you're experiencing it really at the same time as I am, and also what I'm going to do is normally I tend to like to work off a printed checklist, or at least a PDF checklist that's on another screen or on an iPad. What I will do is use the checklist that's actually in the sim, because obviously Iris have gone to a lot of trouble to produce that. So we'll use that, and that will give you a better idea of what that's all about. Okay, so let's pull up the checklist. You'll have to bear with me. I don't normally use these built-in checklists, so it may be a little bit clunky, but I think it's only fair, as I say, that you see it. So pre-flight inspection, we're going to say we've done it. Passenger briefing, we've done it. We've talked about that. The parking brake, I am going to set. There we go. The propeller is clear, no one hanging about. We're going to turn the battery switch on. Let's just, I think you can tick these, can't you? Yeah, of course you can.
Parking brake set and applied shocks removed.
Okay, we've done that.
Propeller clear.
Doesn't really sound like an Air Force instructor, but we'll go with that.
Bat switch on.
Now we'll put the generator on.
Gen switch on.
I'm going to check that the avionics master is off, which is pretty standard, and it is. So we'll just give that a tick.
Avionics master off.
Pitot heat, what we'd be doing at this point, pretty sure you can't do it in this. You'd be popping out and just checking that the pitot heat head is actually, or the pitot head rather, is actually hot, and that's worked. So we'll just take that off. But kind of cool that they've put that in there.
Pitot heat on, functional check, then off.
Nav lights we are going to put on, and there they are.
NAV lights on.
NAV lights, interesting. Alternate static in now. Let's have a look. Alternate static. Inoperative, I'm guessing that stands for, because there's nothing happening there. Instruments condition looking good. We haven't got any broken instruments.
Alternate static in.
Instruments, we've done that.
Instruments condition.
Do you know what? I'm going to stop ticking them. We're just going to run through it because it's going to get irritating for you and me if I keep doing that. So CWP, interesting. That's of course it's the central warning panel, and let's have a look. We'll test, and everything is looking good. So we know what that is now. Volts, quick look for volts. Of course, when you're doing this for real and you're used to the aircraft, you're going to be running through this a lot quicker. It's obviously not a great idea to be sitting on the ground with the battery running and without the engine running and sort of charging the battery up. But we can see here that we've got, where is the volt? There we go, voltmeter. And that is looking fine, so we're happy with that. RPM lever, we're going to set to high. Mixture lever, we'll set to rich. Just checking that is the normal way round. Yes, it is. And trim, we're going to set for takeoff. Did see that here. Have we got a marker on there? Yeah, there we go. So we'll set that for takeoff. There we go. Trim set for takeoff. Fuel selector, we will select to both, and it is already there. Fuel cutoff. That looks to me like a fuel cutoff switch. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if there's nothing more obvious. Yeah. So that was closed and that is open. Yeah, okay, happy with that. Okay, so now we've done the engine start checks. We've done the before engine start checks. Now we're going to do the engine start checks. Whoa, quickly knocked that. Right, let's have the strobe light on now to show them that we mean business. Okay, interesting. There we go. We're going to close the canopy. Oh, track IR didn't like that move. There we go, that's better. I don't think, I was just looking to see if there is a locked. I'm not seeing any other click spots there. So, unless there is anything else, I'm going to assume that that is locked. Nothing else, no. I'm thinking that that green there is probably an indication that it's locked, perhaps. Ignition is off. Where did I see that? Yep, ignition is off. Fuel pump on for 5 seconds and then off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Throttle close and then top of lever 1 centimetre open. Okay, top of lever 1 centimetre open. Okay, so there we go. We'll use that. Propeller area clear. Shouting out the window, clear prop. I'm just going to move that down a bit there. And ignition to both. And we are now going to starter push. Nice sound. Okay, quick look over here, check that the oil pressure is rising. Yeah, that's good, everything's cool there. Throttle we're going to set to 1000 RPM. Started off a little bit easy, there we go. Oil pressure, yeah, we've already had a look at that. Everything is looking tickety-boo down there. Okay, so that's our engine start checks. After engine start checks, ammeter, do we have a positive reading? We do, excellent. GPS, which is, if my memory serves me right, here we go. So we'll just plonk that on. So that's our GPS in this aircraft. it will. You can't program a route into it. It will take the route. If you've set the route at the beginning of your flight, then it will take that as the route. We'll have a play with that once we get in the air. We're not using ATC, so we're not checking radios or avionics. Not worried about the transponder. We are going to let's have a look. We are going to have a quick look at the attitude indicator. That's fine. That's cool. Everything's gone out on the panel here. Sorry, I should have checked that before. We're going to check flaps. That's good. There we go. Now this is where it gets interesting. So mixture lever, we're going to set the BPM, which is the kind of best power mixture. And to do that, what you have to do is you have to look at your altitude above sea level over here, and then you look at this reading here, and then you take 4 off it. So at the moment our fuel flow is interestingly rather low, I guess because we're not really doing much. So we're now going to, let's just check our temperatures. Don't really want to open the throttle all the way. Yeah, that's looking good. So we open the throttle all the way with the propeller open all the way. And then we adjust the mixture to 55 for where we are here. There we go. Okay, let's bring the power down a bit. Now, I think potentially this is something I would have done later on, and that at the moment you're just setting approximately BPM. So I might have jumped the gun a little bit with that, but you kind of get the idea. I think that's possibly something we do in the pre-takeoff checklists. But there you go. So that's where we are with that. Okay. How are we doing? Okay, so interestingly, for the pre-takeoff checklist or taxi checks, it's calling for the landing light on, which wouldn't really normally do in another aircraft. We're going to do that in here because we're going to follow the rules. We are going to quickly release the parking brake. Just check the brakes. Yeah, that works. Okay. We've checked those, and instruments, having another look here. I'll tell you what I will do. It might appear later on, but I am going to just 1013.25. So we're going to be around about there. Okay. Right, excuse me. Back into the checklist. So we will, let's have a quick look over here. And we've got a 2-knot wind, 3-knot wind from 273. So we're going to have a bit of a taxi, and we're going to use runway 27. Not a massive wind to cope with, but it'll give us a chance to get to know the aircraft a little bit more as we do our taxi. So let's get rolling. I always find the ground handling in this sim compared to P3D is a little bit interesting. So let's see what this is like. Very smooth. Doesn't feel too crazy. Don't get too carried away. Oh, wow. Okay. Quite sensitive there on the differential braking, but you know, to be fair, I don't really need to use differential braking in this at the moment, so that was me trying to fly Spitfire again. So with this you've got plus or minus 9 degrees from the rudder pedals down here of steering in the nose wheel, and then if you use differential braking it's fully car string, so I didn't really need to do that, and that was a bit silly. Now something that straight away I'm now picking up for when I fly this again is that it would be a good idea for me to practice driving it around on the ground a little bit, which, you know, to be honest, is something that is a good idea to do in a new aircraft anyway, especially in this sim where the ground handling is quite interesting. It's funny flying it from the right hand side. Suddenly realised interesting behaviour there. Yeah, it's not a seat I'm used to flying in. I'm either in the left-hand seat or I am flying it centrally. Quite a fast taxi here, sunshine. If I did have an instructor next to me, I'm sure he'd be not too happy. Very strange behaviour going on here, which I need to have a look at. I'm sure it's me, but the brakes are acting a bit funny. So we're just going to do a quick test. As you probably saw, we went off the taxiway then, and I'm not sure entirely why. So both brakes at the same time. Come to a halt. Apply a bit of right, and it's turning to the left. Aha, okay. So if I apply the right brake, it's turning to the left. And if I apply the left brake, it's turning to the right. Now I recently installed or reinstalled my Microsoft Flight Simulator, so that might be down to how I have incorrectly set something up. So we are going to have a look at that. Because that would explain why it's going all over the place. So, bear with me. I'm just going to have a look. So, yeah, interesting. There you go. Lesson learnt. Never completely do a reinstall of a flight simulator, and don't properly check it before you do a video, because I had, for some reason, I'd got my brake pedals the wrong way around. It had automatically Flight Sim had automatically, I thought it had automatically recognised the controller, and it had done, but for some reason it got the brake pedals mixed up the wrong way around. Anyway, that's very boring for you, but that explains why we went off the taxiway there. Right, okay, so let's call up the checklist again. That's the wrong one, you idiot. There we go. So before takeoff checklist, because we've done all that. Oh no, here we go. We are going to, we do need to do this one first, so we put the parking brake back on again. There we go. The canopy is closed, we've done that. Flight controls are centered. Oil pressure is 25 minimum, it is. Mixture is set placarded BPM, so that's really what we should have done before, what I should have done before. I'll open the throttle all the way. And that should go to about 55. Okay, yeah, there we go. I'm just going to adjust it slightly. There we go. Set RPM to 2,550. Well, I can't. I've set the placarded BPM, but the RPM lever is open fully and won't go that high, presumably because of where we've got the BPM. So not quite sure how I can get that any higher. So let's idle. Looking at 800. Plus or minus 50. Okay. Set the RPM to 1200. RPM did drop a little lower than 750 there, I think. Let's have another look at that. I suspect that's probably more I think what it's actually telling you to do is idle at 800 and check that everything's running fine, which it is. Okay, we'll set the RPM to 1200. It's always interesting doing this sort of thing because you are probably feeling it out. Right, lineup checks. We don't seem to have done a mag check. I suspect that's in there somewhere. I'm just going to quickly refer to the manual. Bum bum bum, test the engine. Test the engine according to the checklist. The nose wheel straight, keeping the control column inside. Keep the ground at high power to avoid a minimum of. Keep the ground operation of the engine at high power to a minimum to avoid overheating. So that's fine. Let's just check. We'll bring that back there. Okay, so we're going to now check the RPM. Cycle the prop. Yeah, that's fine. It didn't change by any more than 500, which is good. And while testing the magnetos at 2000 RPM, so we now set 2000 RPM. Okay, let's check. Right first. Left. Good. Okay. Let's have a quick look again just to make sure. Yeah, there we go. That was me. I missed it. I missed the mag check in there. Okay. Oh, interesting. Hello, boys. I think you might find you need to get out the way. Just saying. Okay, let's do a quick check of the controls. Free movement, that's good. Pitot heat I'm going to put on because that's always a good idea to have that on anyway. Fuel pump we will have on. Landing lights on, nav lights are on. Everything is good there. Lineup checks, strobe lights are on. That's fine. Okay, let's now try and get past these idiots. We don't get road rage in that. Okay, so we've got no other aircraft around, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm just having a quick check to make sure that nothing's coming in. And let's just not be so heavy on the old rudder, old boy, as we're lining up. Yeah, okay, brake's working better now. That was very odd. Blah blah blah. Quick looking at the after the takeoff. 8 fuel pump off at top of climb. That's fine. Flaps up. Bottle required. Okay, fine. So I'm going to get rid of that for the time being. I am going to set flaps to take off. There we go. Quick look at everything. All our T's and P's. Make sure that everything is fine. That's good. We have been on the ground for a bit here, so what have we got going on here? Oil temperature. Well, pressure is good. Oil temperature's a little on the low side. I thought it would warm up by now. There we go. It's increasing a bit now that we're adding some RPM. That's just indicative of the power setting that I had. So we're going to, first stop is going to be, we're going to overfly Waddington and we're going to head to Lincoln. Now I just want to quickly have a look here. Just looking at the map, sorry. I'm saying have a look here like you know what I'm looking at. Right. Are you ready? First takeoff in the Grob Tutor. Trying to remember it's not a Spitfire. Oh, I need to do something about my rudder pedal sensitivity. Very interesting. Very interesting. What I love about this is that it feels like a light little aircraft. It's hard to convey it, but if I put small inputs into the aileron, you kind of see how it's bumping around a bit. That's quite interesting. Let's go and have a look at the college. Raise the flaps. Let's take the landing light off now. Yeah, it's you can kind of see also and understand how this is a great aerobatic aircraft, because it definitely has a kind of a twitchiness. One of the sort of downsides of this flight sim compared to P3D in terms of scenery is that we don't have those wonderful RAF hangars, but this is I've got the Orbex Central England landmarks pack on, so we've got a very nice college building there, which is not bad. Okay, so let's get back to concentrating on the aircraft, shall we? Come back on the power a little bit. It's always a tricky thing, doing a video where you're talking and at the same time meant to be flying an aircraft. Okay. Well, I can say so far this would be a great aircraft to learn the ropes in. It certainly feels different to the default aircraft. It's twitchier, which is a good thing. You can tell how it's a bit of a challenge to. It's what great training aircraft are. Really, it's simple, but a challenge. If that makes sense. It reminds me in the same way that a Harvard is in terms of sitting in the cockpit and looking at the switches and the instruments. It's simple, but it's quite a challenge to fly as well, and to fly correctly. So, here we are over RAF Waddington. Again, we're lacking those classic RAF style hangars, but you can see that the scenery, which is the beauty of Microsoft Flight Simulator, is that there's a fair amount of detail kind of baked into the scenery, as it were. But even though the buildings themselves aren't really that authentic to the nature of this kind of military airfield. But nonetheless, it does make it quite interesting. Okay, let's head on to Lincoln. Something I have done is just chopped the RPM back a little bit. Of course, the RPM on a constant speed propeller rather it's a little bit like changing gears in a car, so we have to make sure that we've got correct RPM, and I was running the RPM a little bit too high before, around about 2,400, so we're sitting here quite nicely now, just under 100 knots, just over 21,000 or 2,100 RPM. Afford to bring the RPM back a little bit more. Okay, so let's go and have a look at Lincoln. Lincoln Cathedral over there, it's a medieval cathedral. This is one of the additional bits that the new Orbex pack adds, just to create a bit more realism and a bit of immersion. Let's have a wee look over here. I haven't got a clue how this works, but we're going to try. Okay, it's interesting. So you've got nearest airports, giving a bearing and a distance. That's cool. That will be, I would imagine, our next waypoint. Yeah. Not convinced on that, to be honest. I think I've probably got that wrong. Okay, yeah, so bearing from would be 183, track to 017, yeah, okay. Or rather our track is 265, don't know, that's something I need to have a look at. Coningsby, that's our destination. Okay, so some interesting bits and pieces there. Something, an instrument I need to get hold of. have the cathedral. One of the strange things about this sim, you can see you've got those kind of castle walls there, and then inside you've got quite modern buildings. It's just how the sim approximates. It sees a building in the scenery, and then in this situation anyway, will plonk something that it thinks looks like it. So it doesn't always look quite so realistic. I'm going to do a fly over Petwood Hotel, see what it looks like in this. Petwood was, for a time, was looking after the bomber crews, including 617 Squadron, who were all up at Scampton. So we'll just see what that looks like in the sim, just out of curiosity more than anything. Quick look around. Be interesting to do some IFR flying in this aircraft actually. Are out here. Now down here somewhere we've got a little chart that tells us what speeds we should be at. So for a loop, entry speed is was it 135 knots. So let's try a loop. Let's get some speed up. A little bit. Get on the rudders ready. Just entering a cloud as we're looping, which is great. Let's just bring it round a little bit. Come away from this cloud. Give it a whirl. Okay. Not too bad. Quite stable. Love the little shaking noises that we get. Well, let's try a stall. Buffeting, there he goes. Okay, what's her altitude? interesting. There we go. So, yeah, basically I was probably a little bit heavy-handed with the rudder in the first instance and actually sent it into a spin in the opposite direction. This is a very sensitive aircraft, which is what you'd want in a trainer. So probably wasn't quite ready for that. So yeah, I seem to have sent it into a spin in the opposite direction, but recovered and everything's tickety-boo and we're still alive. And hopefully everyone's lunch is still in their stomachs. Okay. Let's get back onto course. So we're going to head now for Petwood. It is a beautiful cockpit. As I said, I think, you know, this is depending on you know, what your chosen type of aircraft is, which, you know, thinking about it, you know, you don't have to have a chosen type of aircraft. You might want to fly all different types, which is probably a good way of doing it. This is a cracking trainer for a modern you know, modern flying training. I can absolutely see how you could learn an awful lot from this aircraft. A little bit like the Harvard with Warbirds, this aircraft will teach you to, because of how sensitive it is, it will teach you good old stick and rudder techniques very nicely. So I'm just concentrating on where we are. I need to come around this way. And at the same time you can do some aeros in it and have some fun. And it certainly has a different feel to the default aircraft. It's great fun to fly. So that should be Petwood down there. I think again we've got the same issue as before, where the real building, which is a kind of a Tudor style, has been replaced with something quite different. But from the baked in scenery, let's just bring us around a little bit so you can at least see, you can see the gardens in the front of the building, you can see the car park, see the grounds, but the actual architecture of the building itself is obviously wrong. But do you know what? It ain't bad considering that's out of the box, and the surrounding scenery is, for anyone who's used to the area, is probably very realistic. So let's head on to Coningsby. So we're going to be looking to take runway 25 here. At this stage we'll put the landing light on. So look at the little checklist actually, seeing as they've been so good to include it. So RPM lever is high. Mixture lever we've got set to BPM. Temperatures and pressures are in the green. Interestingly, I've noticed the EGT has not moved. I vaguely recall that being something funny that was going on in MSFS with other aircraft. So I'm not sure if that's a continuation of the same thing, but that EGT needle doesn't seem to have moved at all. Temperature pressure is green. Flat for takeoff, we'll do that once we are more established, because we're not quite in the final check stage. Okay. intercept the ILS now. Okay, let's have that all the way forward. Landing lights already on, fuel pump on. So flaps for takeoff, initial setting. Ooh, interesting. The needle jerking across there a little bit. Which I would expect that to be a bit smoother again. That might be a setting in Microsoft Flight Simulator perhaps. So we're looking for an approach speed of 70, which is what we've got. Very strange flying this from the right hand seat. Shouldn't be. Slight bit of buffeting. A bit slow, really. We want 70. We're hovering around 60. Interesting trees just on the approach there. A little bit close for comfort. Well, smooth landing in the end. Well, as it should do, it could just be that's my first landing in it, but as it should do, it certainly keeps you on your toes for that approach anyway. It's possibly the sensitivity, but the whole balancing of using attitude to control the speed and using the power to control the rate of descent and all that kind of good stuff. In this aircraft, it certainly requires a little bit more attention. That's my kind of initial gut feeling for it. Very interesting indeed. Lovely aircraft to fly. Lovely aircraft to learn to fly in as well, I should say. I could certainly, if you're new to flight sim and you're looking to have a challenging aircraft to learn to fly in, then this is definitely the one. I can imagine that once you've gone on from this to other aircraft, if you're new to it all, the other aircraft will feel a lot maybe easier isn't the right word, but you know, it will be a lot more, it will make a lot more sense when you are flying them, and things will be a bit more intuitive, because this teaches you to be quite exact in how you're flying. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Quite often with these initial flights, it is very much as you find it as we go along. It's not rehearsed, or there's no script. It's really just me discovering it at the same time as you, and learning things along the way. And it's always interesting to do that. I always learn something new when I'm trying to do it this way. So yeah, lovely aircraft. I can heartily recommend it. Something we will do is on this shutdown on this, there's something that's slightly different. We're doing an ignition check. So we'll just follow that through to end the flight. So when parked on the apron, close the throttle, apply the parking brake, and complete the shutdown procedure. So let's put the parking brake on. So the ignition check is carried out at 900 RPM. So just about there. There we go. And now we're going to move the ignition switch to right. And a small RPM drop is what we should be seeing. Let's go back. And then we'll do it to left. And we're seeing a small drop there as well. And this is where it's a little bit different. We're going to briefly select off and then put it back to both. And what we want to do is make sure that when we switch it to off, the engine actually does cut out like it's like it's meant to. There it goes. So we're back onto both again, and that is absolutely fine. So we will now fuel pump off, avionic master off, and let's close it down. Okay. So, thank you very much for coming along. I hope you found that interesting. And I look forward to seeing you on the channel again soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.